that I can't, that I won't, that I fail, that I'll never make it out, yeah. Please tell me all the bad, never good. Fill my head full of every single doubt, yeah. Please say any negative thoughts. I pop off when I hear people say I cannot. I get off to the thought of proving everyone wrong. I won't stop to the top, so you better back off and get lost. I'ma stay loud, stay proud, never running out, never heading south. I'll be spreading out, call it word of mouth. Can't put me down, I'll be getting loud. You can have me douse, not what I'm about. Have your cloud, it be raining now. I keep making sound, go another round. I'm legend bound, can't stop me now.
You don't wanna fuck with me. A slow burn like a disease. Just tell me that I can and I'll show you things that you couldn't believe. Just tell me that I can. Just tell me that I can. Just tell me that I can. Just tell me that I can.
What's going on, everybody? What's up? I missed you guys. It's been a minute since I got to do a live. So, hi. I hope everybody's doing fantastic. I know I am exhausted. I've been out in the garden every day for the last 3-4 days. I'm just straight up beat right now. But yeah. Hey, I get to hang out with all my friends. What is going on? What is going on? Oh, looky here. We got the boss man showing up. That's cool. Oh, and Miss Natalie is here. Oh, very cool. Very cool. We got Jeanette and Denise. All kind of folks. Cool. Awesome, guys. I'm happy that you guys are all here and get to hang out with me tonight. So tonight, I've got a bit of a treat. We've got somebody that I work with coming on with Relic Films. Hence why probably the boss man is here. Make sure you guys say moist in the comments. But yeah, it should be a really fun time. And y'all be nice to her because this is, like I said, this is her first time. So let's welcome to the stage Janice.
Hi.
What you doing?
I want to say the word sprinkle for my friend Greg too. And for Adam Davies. Yes. They'll know what I mean by that. How are you guys doing?
Yeah. Well, I was doing a lot better before you brought up that painful memory.
Yes, it was. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But you know what? It was a very bonding moment for all of us in that group. It was just so funny.
It really was.
Mm-hmm.
It turns out when you go for, 3 days without running water, you become the feral people.
Yeah, we ended up finding a bucket and running down to the creek just to get water to flush the toilet every time we would go. And then some of us in the group had the bright idea. I was like, oh, forget this. I'm going to the restaurant down the street, So
yeah,
take a trip every time we need to use the bathroom.
Yes. And guys, just so y'all know, there is a very funny video that depicts a lot of the shenanigans going on and the talks and fun stuff that we talked about behind the scenes on the last film that's on my Patreon. So if you guys remember, go check it out. It's pretty cool. You will be laughing. And if you've ever thought about what monkey tastes like, you might get an idea after you get done watching that. So yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Right. But anyways, so Miss Janice, talk to us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Well, my name's Janice, and I am one of the camera operators for Relic Films, and I've been doing that for about 10 years. And we have been through numerous documentaries as well as experience in many different states. And how I got into it is at the time I was looking for a really good hobby. And I was working as a main camera operator for a mega church in Birmingham. And I had a patient who was Greg, and we started talking one day, and I told him, yeah, I'm a camera operator. And he's like, we're looking for a camera operator on this documentary I'm trying to put together on Native American customs and legends. And so I was like, well, I'm not sure if I'd be a good fit, but I would love to, see if I fit in with the group, or if you need me, I'd love to do that. And so turns out we all just really meshed well together. And so we finally got the Downy Booger out. Like, I don't know, it took us like 3 years to get that first one out. It was pretty rough, but it kept on morphing, because we first wanted to do a show preserving Native American history and especially like tanning hides and stuff like that. But when we were interviewing the Native Americans that were sharing some of these stories with us, their creation stories, and then they would talk about the forest people. And then we're like, well, maybe we need to kind of like jump into that forest people subject and see a little more about what that is. And I'm telling you what, when we jumped in that, it's like the Bigfoot hole opened up wider and wider. And one of the things I know that early on, all three of us in Relic Films, which now is all three of us now, with you being Jim, one of our our tech god now. And that we wanted to have a group that stayed away from, how would you say, bickering and fighting, because there is a lot of that. And I'm not just saying in like the Bigfoot paranormal world, I'm saying like you put yourself out there, like me doing this right now, people are she's, she's crazy. I'm not crazy. Well, maybe a little. No.
Only in the way that's fun.
Put yourself out there.
Right.
You put yourself out there to be, criticized. And I think for a long time, like I wouldn't tell people my stories. And this last year, because I've had podcasters wanting to get me on their show, as part of Relic Films, and Greg's like, come on, do this with me. And I'm like, no, I'm not in front of the camera. I was always behind the camera, And but this year I thought to myself, I was like, why not be in front of the camera? Because I do have a lot of crazy stories, and there's not now it's getting a little bit more mainstream now, but back 10 years ago, you didn't have that many female Bigfooters out doing the things that we were doing.
Very true.
Boy, I learned what not to do, and real quick, and I have a lot of our first experiences were really, how would I say, were shaped by Paul Halsey, the late Paul Halsey, who passed away last year, and man, we're going to miss him. But he really took us under his wing and gave us a lot of information. And through him, we were able to meet like so many different people in the field, like the late Grumpy, aka Bob Wilson. He just passed away, I think it was last year also. And a friend of mine named Angela, and then I have a friend named Sean. And so a lot of these people that we've met has just really first of all expanded our minds, because when I first got into this, and we're like, oh, this is a living, breathing thing, and I'm not so sure anymore, and it kind of shakes your beliefs on a lot of things. And so I'm not in any way, shape, or form telling anybody that I'm an expert. I'm I wouldn't even call myself, well, what would you say, an investigator or researcher? Because if you're a researcher, then you're using empirical data, you're using the scientific method. A lot of times when we go out, we're just trying to get something on film, and gosh, 90% of the time that we do, we don't get anything, and so when you hear researchers saying, hey, you come out with me, you're going to get some action. I kind of wonder about that, because it's, not that I'm trying to criticize anyone, but it's just because of my experience in the past, whereas
Mhm.
90% of the time you don't get anything. That's why
Right.
a lot of researchers like Paul and Bob Grumpy would tell us, hey, you have to go back to a site over and over and over again.
Mhm.
And in the field, we call it a habituation site, a place
Yeah,
where you
yeah.
go over and over and over again. And so the local flora and fauna, the local wildlife, whatever, they get so used to you being there that
Mhm.
they will let their guard down and come up to you.
Right.
And so this is what we did. And Bankhead was one of our first habituation sites, and that was
Mhm.
one given to us and shared with us through the late Paul Halsey. And
Right.
then we also had a different one in North Georgia, and I'm not going to tell where that is, but we also did that in North Georgia. Actually, it was many different places in North Georgia. That the whole North Georgia is just chock full of like sightings. In fact, where I'm at right now, at
Mhm.
my friend Angela's house,
Yeah.
just right down the road, I think it's not even just a couple of miles down the road, is that infamous footage where the police officer on his dash cam, him and his
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
right
yeah,
down the
yeah.
road right here. Yes.
Well,
And usually when I come over here, we sit
hmm,
outside, or we go riding around. We're exploring this area a lot.
right.
And but we'll stay out at the fire pit and have all kinds of activity. And it's just always a fun time being around with people that you love too. So
Well, hopefully, if we all get lucky, maybe one will push its face up against the window and, like, blow steam it up. I'm not gonna say anything if it does happen, but you'll just have to read my face
you
because I
know
don't
what's
want you to be
funny?
distracted.
That is so crazy you said that, because this room is the room I stay in. And
Uh-huh.
she just moved she had a chalet and, in North Georgia. And I used to stay in one room down like in the first floor.
Mhm.
And one night when I was there, the window didn't have any, window fixtures on it. She just
Okay.
moved here. That's why this one
Yeah.
doesn't yet. But one night, it was super creepy. Like I kept on feeling like I was getting like watched, and it's like the next day there was like a handprint, a dirty
Mhm.
handprint on the window. And that
Oh.
whole area where she lived was just super active. We would get we always get orbs every time we go out. And that's one thing that's super weird. Like every state that I have ever been in, investigating Bigfoot, Dogman, whatever, we
Yeah.
have gotten orbs. In fact, when we were with you in
Yeah.
Townsend a couple of weeks back in Tennessee,
Mhm.
we got orbs that night too.
Gosh, we had orbs for freaking days. It was 4th of July out there. It was popping off so many. I
Right,
mean,
and it does. I mean,
ugh,
those were looking more like shooting stars, except the only problem was they were
yeah.
in the woods. They weren't in the skyline. You're like, okay, it's not like fireflies because it's like 20 degrees at night.
Right.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
my personal opinion that is almost every time we've had Bigfoot activity or Dogman activity,
Mhm.
we have always gotten these orbs, and we've had some literally respond to us, and we've
Mhm.
had some like come through the woods, like walking up the trail, and we thought it was like a camper or something with a flashlight. And then when it
Right.
gets to a certain point and it just stays there, and you're like, oh my God, that's not a camper. And you're like, what is this? And, like I
Right.
said, I'm no expert. I'm not claiming to know exactly what it is. I do believe that it is some kind of energy that maybe we haven't figured out what it is yet.
Right.
I really don't know, but I know that that is one thing in particular
Mhm.
that has been a common denominator in every place we've been. Mhm.
Right. And that brings up Miss Jeanette's question here. Are the orbs connected to the site of Bigfoot? And I think you answered it. Like, can we definitively say with 100% certainty? No. But every time you have those popping off, you also have Bigfoot. You
Mhm.
look at, historically speaking, all the stories, people will always talk about orbs with Bigfoot.
Right.
Unless, of course, it gets scrubbed by like somebody like the BFRO, like, but like real talk, real people, yes, they are connected and they're almost always present with each other. Does that mean they're
Right.
one and the same? Don't know. But
And
I think.
in the past, I'm like, okay, I remember the first time we
Mhm.
experienced this like 10 years ago, Relic Films, when
Yeah.
we were at Bankhead experiencing the orbs, and in North
Mhm.
Georgia when we saw them there too. And we were like, maybe this is swamp gas. And then it's like following us, and then it's coming right up to us. And then, it's just, no, swamp gas doesn't do that, and neither does ball lightning. It was definitely
Right.
wasn't that. But some
Right.
of them, I will say, are as bright as ball lightning. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
we've had some of them move on the ground very similar to what ball
Mhm.
lightning looks like, is caught on
Mhm.
film. And there'll be a different range of colors too. You'll have some that are like bright gold. You'll have some that are like very white, like almost LED. And then
Yeah.
you'll have some who are blue, green. There have been occasions when they have been red. And so I
Mhm.
don't know what the colors mean. Like I said, I'm no expert. Who knows?
I kind of think maybe it's like a mood ring or something. I don't know.
Right? Right, right,
You know.
right.
But yeah. I mean, yeah, we actually saw a lot of red ones in Townsend. So
Yeah. Mhm.
yeah. What does that mean? I don't know.
I
I don't
mean,
know.
really, it does. You just it just goes off to you. It gives you way more questions than answers. When you go out,
Mhm.
you're like, you have this preconceived notion that Bigfoot is like a real living, breathing,
Mm.
maybe even a feral human or something like that. And then something like this happens, or what you see ducking behind, a tree looking at you, just completely
Right.
disappears. And
Mhm.
that's where it just really goes into the paranormal realm, which I don't know
Right.
if I'm so like comfortable with that. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
I will tell you about like when I was younger. I was 16, and
Mhm.
my first experience, something that I really couldn't understand, was when I was trying to go to sleep at night, and my
Yeah.
room would be dark. And this is when I was 16, very young girl, and something at the end of my bed would be very tall, very big, all black outline with red eyes. And it was a red, creepy eyes, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a demon in my house. And like, I'm like, okay, I was raised Baptist. My dad
Mhm.
was a Gideon. My mom was a Gideon too. He was like
Okay.
very big up into the church. So
Yeah.
before I was even born, I was in church. And so
Mhm.
I was like, okay, I've always been told that, you get scared like that, you say a Bible verse, quote scripture, and it will go away.
Mhm.
Well, here's the thing, it never did. And so
Mm.
I would just be petrified. I'm like, how am I going to sleep? I got to go to school tomorrow. I would, I spent so many years like sleeping under the covers. And then I realized if I just sleep with the lights on, it never happens. And so
Mm.
I slept with the lights on until till I got married.
Yeah.
I was 27 years old, still sleeping with the lights on because that's when I got married. And but I
Okay.
always wondered about that experience because I was like, maybe this is like sleep paralysis. Maybe I'm like imagining this because you're a
Mhm.
child, you get scared, the boogeyman
Yeah.
in the closet. And what really made it real for me is I was taking my best friend home, and numerous occasions we would see this creature that I would see at the end of my bed in the middle of a horse pasture.
Mhm.
And she saw it too. And I almost wrecked when I saw it those nights. I'm like, this thing is actually following me now. What in the world?
Mhm.
I ended up graduating from high school, and I went to college, and I never saw it there. I never
Yeah.
saw it after that. But then, you know, always kind of wondering what that was. I kind of
Yeah.
got into like a little bit of a paranormal investigation in like college,
Mhm.
and I do EVPs, go to graveyards, do stupid stuff, like you do. Is anybody out there? Oh my God. But I learned real quick that, doing that, you can bring unwanted things home with you. And so,
Yeah.
like, I need to quit doing that. But one of the things, that always really interested me was Loch Ness Monster, Dogman,
Right.
Mothman, Bigfoot. And so I
Mhm.
was like, when this experience with Relic Films came up for me to be a camera operator, I was like, okay, let's do this. I need something to do because my son was at the age where I was a scout leader in Boy Scouts for like 12 years with him. But when he
Okay.
got to be about 15, he's like, Mom, can I go out on a camp out without you? And I was like, oh, because I was always like the only mom there, the only, and
Yeah.
it'd be me and a whole bunch of boys and the guys. I was just one of the guys. And
Right. Right.
anyway, so I really enjoyed camping out. So when this
Mhm.
position came for camera lady for Relic Films, I was like, let's go. I love camping out. And we sure
Right. Right.
have. We've been on so many different camp outs and investigations and expeditions. It's been a nice ride. It really has.
Well, that's great. So with that being said, I know that since your introduction to all this, you've kind of started getting out there and getting involved a little bit with some of these other like conferences and stuff that get put on. Is there
Yeah.
any that you happen to be going to of late or coming
Yes.
up?
I think I know that there is one coming up May the 16th and 17th.
Mm-hmm.
And Greg and I are going to be going to that. And it's in Paducah, Kentucky. And
Ah.
it's put on by David Eller.
Okay.
And David Eller is also speaking at the Alabama Bigfoot Conference too this year. But
Ah.
this David Eller event is called the Atomic City Paranormal Symposium.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a lot of films he's going to be showing. He has a lot
Yeah.
of speakers, and we'll probably be showing our films there. The Downy Booger, and then Cryptic Expeditions, Land Between the Lakes. We'll be showing that there. And then also June the 6th through the 7th, Anita Collier here in Alabama. She's going to have the Alabama Bigfoot Conference. Is this the third or the fourth one? I can't remember. I've been to every one of them. They've been amazing. They're really fun. But this one's going to be in Alabama and Anniston.
I think it's the 4th or the 5th, isn't it?
The June the 6th.
No. Like this is the 4th one or the 5th one that it's happened.
Then it's got to be the 4th one. Yes.
Okay.
And
I know something like that.
This one's going to be held at the Jacksonville State University. So that's where this one's going to be. Mm-hmm.
Is that where we were last year?
Oh, I can't remember. We were on like a campus, a college.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah, it's not important. Google exists. If you guys are interested, Google it.
Now, the speakers at this one is going to be Anita herself, M.K. Davis, Melissa Adair, David Eller, Dana Nedrello. I don't know him, so I hope I'm not butchering his name. Ryan Edwards and Tex Wesson is going to be the speaker extraordinaire.
Nice. He's a good MC. He really is.
Yeah, in fact, I've got one of his shirts on, this t-shirt right here.
Ooh, let's keep it PG-13, girl.
Yeah, right. I also want to say that they're going to have Saturday, July the 26th. They're going to have Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Conference in Gatlinburg. That's always fun.
Yes, for sure. Now, I know that speaking of Anita, I know that she puts on a pretty good little camp out because you mentioned something to me about it. Do you care to go into it a little bit?
This is funny because, I have never done a podcast, and my friend David Eller. This is so funny because it was supposed to be an all-female Bigfoot camp out, and somehow there's 2 men there, And anyway, David was on a podcast telling about our experiences, and it was pretty intense that night because, he didn't sleep in the tent with us. He slept in his van watching the tent all night, and he saw so much activity around the tent. Of course, he saw my friend Lanita freaking out, going, stop hitting the tent, because oh my goodness, something kept on opening the flap of the tent like all night long and hitting the side of the tent, either with
Oh man.
twigs or hands or whatever it was. And
Yeah.
it was, now I know this may sound really weird, but it didn't wake me up. I'm a heavy sleeper, but I've also done this for 10 years.
Yeah.
And so I don't scare really easy. And
Mhm.
so I was just like, as long as they don't come in. But the time
Right.
that it really did wake me up is when the flap completely opened. Now, I never saw anything that night. I did see
Mhm.
an orb or whatever and some eye shine, but I never saw, actually the creature or anything. So,
Right. Yeah. Well, that's really cool that you guys had all kind of activity, and it's interesting that it was seemed to be focused on your tent. Was
yeah,
did any of the other tents by the other girls get messed with at all that you know of?
no, because Anita ended up going to her car and spending the night in her car because she's like, I've got to get some sleep. And she had just had hip surgery. And so she
Right.
was, hurting a little bit. So she felt like if she were to sleep in her car and kind of like a recliner position in the front seat, it would be better on her.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so pretty much me and Lanita were like in there. And it wasn't too cold or whatever.
Mhm.
It was a nice night to camp out. And but I tell you what, it was just like constant all night long.
Mm.
Lanita going, stop! Oh my God, leave me alone. But I mean, it wasn't her doing it. I know 100% it was not her doing it. And
Right.
yeah, so whatever that was, never saw it, but um, it's very typical of behavior
Mhm.
of when you're in a campground. And
Yes.
mind you, it was just me, it was just women in that tent. So
Mhm.
it was a perfect opportunity for a Bigfoot to come up and mess with us and get screams, or who knows, it may not have been a Bigfoot. I mean, I don't know. Never caught anything on film. So
Right. Yeah.
not
I
at
mean,
that time. You know.
to be fair, it could have been just about anything. So yeah, it's a good
Mhm.
call.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm with you. I mean, because me, I sleep like the dead. Like it takes a lot to wake me up in the middle of the night. I mean, I myself have had paranormal experiences like that. I've woken up and experienced something, and
Mhm.
if it doesn't register high enough on the level for me, I'm just like, whatever, leave me alone. I'm going to sleep. Good night.
Right.
Deuces. You know. So I get it. I
Mhm.
get it.
There's been campouts. Here, I'll tell you a couple of what happened. We
Mhm.
were in North Georgia, my group Relic Films, filming
Mhm.
some some footage for the Down Booger to finish it up.
Yeah.
And we had just got to the campground. Now I take my truck, Greg had already gotten there and he was going to the bathroom and trying to get wood to light. It was really cold. And
Sorry, Adam.
oh,
Adam, you just
Adam's,
had to do it. You had to do it.
what did he say?
Yeah, I don't know that I can say it without it not being PG-13.
Oh my God, that's like our last podcast, right? Well,
Yes.
so
Anyways, good to see you, buddy.
this was like early on, and this was in North Georgia. We were trying out our second like habituation site, and it was cold. Greg had went to the bathroom. I didn't know he had gone to the bathroom. I went
Right.
to my truck, which is about 100 feet away from the campground. And I was going to get my lipstick because it was really cold and I don't want to like get my lips chapped. And so I go and I open my car door and it's black as dark outside. It's super dark. And so, the light on in the inside of my truck comes on
Mhm.
and I hear in Greg's voice, hey, Janice. And he has a very, like every time he calls somebody, it's like, hey, Jim, hey, Adam, hey, Janice. It's always hey something. And so
Right.
but it was like his voice, and I'm like, but what freaked me out about this is it
Mhm.
sounded like it was coming from my front left tire, like right in back of me on the ground. And I'm like, why would you be doing that? And I'm like, okay, don't overreact. This is probably, maybe it's the phonics of this campground just sounds like, he's calling for me, but it's just, it's just science,
Yeah, it's just
something you
the
can
crazy land features making it sound like Greg is
right?
behind a
Right?
tire on the car on the
Mhm.
ground. Yeah.
I go up to Greg and I go, "Hey, what's up? What you
Mhm.
need?" And he goes, "It wasn't me. I didn't call you. What are you talking about?" And I'm like, "You most certainly did. What are you talking about?" I was like, "I heard you." And then I got so spooked that night. Like,
Mhm.
I was like, "Guys, I'm not going to be able to go to sleep tonight in my tent. I'm
Right.
going to be freaking out because something called me out by name, like, 'Hey, Janice.'" And by the way, that wasn't the only time that happened. That
Right.
happened at two different campgrounds, two different habituation sites.
Mhm.
And later on, it started saying other people's names because we were at a expedition that my friend Angela put on
Yeah.
in Georgia, and Paul Halsey was there with us as the group,
Mhm.
and we didn't go out with one of the groups that got FLIR footage of a whole group of Sasquatch, and I'm like, why couldn't I have been that group? You know what I mean? But I was sitting by the campfire with my friends, fellow researchers that do not want me
Mhm.
to name them. So anyway, I was around the fire, and then all of a sudden you hear, "Hey, Paul," in Greg's voice, just like the thing did to me, before, like, "Hey, Janice," and I'm like, "Oh my God, it's the same thing." And Paul looks at me, and then the other researchers look, they're like, "What the heck?" And we're like, maybe that was the group on the walkie-talkies, and they were on radio silence. They were like miles
Mhm.
away, out
Yeah.
investigating, getting that FLIR footage. They had nothing to do with any of that. And we were just so creepily spooked by that,
Mhm.
and at that same Campout that morning, we went to go get some breakfast. Well, one of our group didn't go,
Mhm.
and they were awakened in the tent by hearing, "Hey, Angela, are you still here? Are you still sleeping?" Hmm. Yep.
Wow.
So
Okay.
we've had this happen, and this has happened. Usually, it's "Hey" and then the person's name, but
Mhm.
she got actually a whole sentence that was totally different. And in fact, I didn't know that until today because we were talking. I'm like, "Oh my God, I never knew that." You know, in fact, one of the craziest stories that I have. Well, no, I got quite a few crazy stories.
Mhm.
North Georgia is where I've had so many different things happen. I know that on one camp out, I was in my tent. We had already gone to bed, super cold. And I had brought, those big, huge totes.
Yeah.
Well, I had brought some totes to leave outside the tent for like my tent uh, sleeping bag covers and things like that, and
Mhm.
I left it outside. There was no food in it at all because I know
Okay.
to do that.
Right.
And but inside that tote, I had just random clothes, other jackets, dry clothes because it was supposed to rain, or if it
Right.
did, I wanted my stuff to be nice and dry because we were on a floodplain at this campground.
Oh.
And I heard really late at night, woke me up, something coming in and walking around. And I'm thinking, there's some joker walking around my tent. What the heck, And you could tell that it wasn't an animal. It sounded like a human
Mhm.
walking around, very like big human, in fact. And I
Right.
was so scared that I did not look outside my tent and zip it because what I was hearing right beside my head, because I'm sleeping in the tent, I hear that tote being picked up, opened in midair, because you could hear it rummage through whatever's in my tote, put it down
Mhm.
on the ground again. It did that 2 or 3 times. And
Oh
I'm
my
like,
gosh.
okay, a bear can't do that. They don't have the thumbs and the capability. So it's
Right.
either a human or Bigfoot. Now, I don't know because I was too terrified at the time because this is early on in our experience to, I didn't have cameras set up. I didn't
Right.
even have my audio running. So I
Well,
didn't even capture any of that on anything.
if it makes you feel any better,
Mhm.
I didn't catch the Bigfoot running across the road. That would have been the Bigfoot film of the century when
Right.
Greg and I were out for the beginning of this one. So don't feel too bad. We all make mistakes.
Right. And see, that's the thing. I mean, when your experiences happen and they're
Mhm.
just, you're not ready for it. I mean, I don't
Oh,
care who
no.
you are. You don't live
Right.
yourself, your life behind a camera lens. You're going to
Mhm.
like fall and kill yourself. You're out in the woods, looking around.
Oh,
Um,
definitely.
and also, when you do see something, the shock of what you're seeing kind of, fight or flight goes on in your brain. You're not
Oh, yeah.
thinking of the camera.
No. If anything, to be fair, like I feel like more activity is prone to happen anyways with the cameras off, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like we did experiments on that. We're like, okay, every time we're going into our habituation site that we know is extremely active, every time we take, well, here's a weird thing. Anytime we take guns, which is always me,
Mhm.
or cameras, audio, like they ghost us, And so we have learned over the years, what not to do and what to do. Now, early on, me being a single female or whatever, going into the woods with men, yeah, I pack, I carry my
Mhm.
9mm, and then I'm also having probably bear spray and everything else too. And it's not for
Sure.
Bigfoot, it's for creepy people, and they're not my team
Right.
members because I trust them with my life,
Right.
but you never know who you're going to experience, because
Mhm.
I did have a really creepy night. This happened, it was a February night in
Mhm.
2017 with my main researcher, who
Okay.
doesn't want me to name him. I am directionally challenged. So after work, I was going to meet him up
Mhm.
in Bankhead. And it
Right.
was our habituation sites, big place.
Uh-huh.
And for the life of me, place I went forever, but it was dark. I just totally got lost. And it was February. It's like, it was below 30. It was like super cold that night, super
Mhm.
cold. And so I finally got a signal. He met me at a spot, and then, I followed him back into where we were. And then we parked our cars, my truck, his car. And
Mhm.
then we walked in to where we wanted to investigate.
Right.
And at that time, I wanted to kind of push the envelope a little bit, because Paul told us not to go past this certain point. And I'm
Okay.
like, what happens if you go past it? So,
Right.
me being that girl, I'm like, I'm gonna go past that point,
Yeah.
and I had a 9mm or whatever, and this is like thick woods, man. I'm telling you,
Yeah.
it was way on out there. And there is a thing that me and my friends would call the Blair Witch structure. I know a lot of people talk about X formations or whatever, but this
Uh-huh.
was kind of like, it was so weird because it had like stuff put on it, designs on. And to me, it reminded me of the Blair Witch structure, on the movie. And so that's what we
Hmm.
affectionately called it. So we were going out that area. And also, here's what's weird. There's a lot of pine trees, and they were all on this trail, just
Mhm.
like tons of them, X's, like tens of them, like probably
Wow.
20 different X's of very
Uh-huh.
large trees making that pattern. And
Mhm.
it's not like it was like trees falling. No, they were all in an X pattern on this for like, oh my goodness, probably about
Hmm.
100 feet. And so, but this was funny because the late Paul Halsey told me, don't go past that. So, what do we want to do? I want to go past it.
Yeah,
Well,
always.
right.
Tell me no and just watch me do it after that, right? Yeah.
I mean, just go ahead and sign me up, because I'm doing
Exactly.
it. Yes. And so me and my research partner, By the way, I knew nobody else was out in any of the campgrounds or any of the areas. This is a very remote part of Bankhead. And the reason why I knew nobody was out there, because I went down every campsite and rode down there because I was lost for like an hour. And so I knew nobody was out there. And plus it was like below 30 that night. And so when we finally got out there, me and Brent were just walking down this trail, and all of a sudden we hear this growl, and we knew it was a big animal. And I'm like, oh my God. It was so like the growls were like, it vibrated your body. That was how loud it was. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to really die in the woods. Like my daughter says, looking for Bigfoot. That's the first thing that goes through my mind. Yeah. And so me and Brent would kind of get a little scared. I mean, I wouldn't put anyway. We
Sean,
get bit, back to back. And so we were very scared. And I was like, do you hear that? He's like, yes, I hear that. How could you not hear that? And I'm like, oh my God, I don't even have my audio with me. Of course, right? This is when all the good stuff goes down. And I just have a camera, I'm shaking to death. It's freezing. And we get back to back. So he's facing that way and I'm facing this way towards that path. And then we hear the growl again. And I'm like, oh my God, it's a panther. We're about to get jumped, and I'm like, don't run, because that's what they do. They'll run after you. And so I put my hand on my gun. And I was about to draw it. And my research partner said, get your blanking hand off your gun. You're going to get us killed. And I was like, okay, and the whole thing about it is, I don't know what it is I saw. I can't even describe it. I never saw a face, something, and then went down. It was so quick. I could
really. So you did get to see something, though, right?
Yeah, I don't know. But the thing is, it's like it was super skinny, and I'm like, is this some meth head out in the woods? I'm like, no, nobody was out in the woods. I'm sitting here trying to rationalize it myself. Brent never saw it. He's looking the other way, and I'm like, maybe it's a sapling blowing in the wind. I'm like, no, the wind wasn't blowing. It was very stagnant, because I went back many weeks after that trying to figure out what it was I saw, and I still don't know what it was. Super skinny. I mean, that thing, the profile had to been that skinny. But it's February, so it's probably lean times, And,
so, okay, hold on. Now, by saying that, you mean it was that big around, you could put your hands around it?
Yeah, it was super skinny, but it was so black. I couldn't make out if it had if that was hair, clothes, fur. I couldn't make that out. It didn't turn and look at me. It went across the path, and the only thing that my fellow researcher heard that night is there on the other side of the path is a cliff edge, and it goes really far down. So whatever it was on two legs went down that cliff face. You could hear rocks falling without a flashlight in the dark, and it was inky black that night. That was weird. And numerous times then, me and my research partner had been out there. We had heard numerous calls, long distance calls. We've heard tree knocks, which tree knocks, that could be anything, And so I'm not a big believer in that. I know that at one time in Bankhead, we were hearing tree knocks very close to our campground, because we would go there every weekend. It was crazy. And we kept on hearing these really loud knocks. And I'm like, heck, man, we're Bigfoot researchers. Suck it up, baby. I'm going out there to see what it is, So we go out there. It ends up being a pine tree about to fall, and it's got a big crack in it. And it was going pop, and I'm like, oh my goodness. Oh, that's all it was. Yeah.
Right.
To say that every one of them, are trees about to fall, but it could totally explain some of them for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Now, it's sticking in my craw just a little bit, so let's circle back. The skinny thing.
Okay, what do you need?
All right, so Did you watch the video I sent you guys in the messenger chat the other day that I made about my encounter?
No, I didn't because I have been literally at work since I've seen
Okay.
you. This is
Well,
like the first day I've had
no
off for a
worries.
while.
No
Mhm.
worries. But the point is, though, like in my original alien encounter,
Okay.
that thing was super tall and extremely skinny too. Like I felt like I could put my hands
Yeah.
like all the way around its stomach area.
What color was it, man?
Blacker than black.
Okay, so that is exactly what I saw.
Yeah,
Like
it's like a
whatever I saw
walking
was
black
blacker
hole.
than black. Mhm.
Yep.
I never
Yep.
saw a face, but it was face. You know, I saw the profile, kind of
hmm
like the Patterson Gimlin profile. You know, and I mean that thing was gone. Like one step, and it cleared that whole path. And I'm like,
Yeah,
what am I seeing? You know, and
that's
I
how
mean,
my experience went too.
yeah,
I
and
could see about 300 feet, and it just cleared in a flash. Just boom, 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 gone.
mhm. You
So,
know, me and
not
my
to say that that's what it was, but I'm just saying like the
right,
similarities of what you're saying is making me have little PTSD flashes, and I'm just like,
yeah.
but, you know.
Mhm.
So I'm sorry. Carry on.
See, that's why I am so reluctant on saying, "Oh, it's a Bigfoot," because you know what? I
Right.
don't know. I
Right.
don't know. It could have been some crazy, tall, skinny meth head in the woods.
Oh
But
yeah.
you know, where we were, very unlikely.
Mm,
And but hey, my buddy was right when he was like, "Put your freaking gun away. You're gonna get us killed." Because if I would have pulled
mm,
that out, I wouldn't have been able to shoot it because I was so freaked out at the time. My hands were frozen because it was
mhm.
so cold that night. And there's no way that something that skinny I was gonna be able to hit like in the dark anyway. You know what I'm
But you
trying?
would have gave it a shot, right? Like you would have tried,
You
because
know
I
what?
would have.
Hey, if he wouldn't have been there and said that, I probably would have. I really
Yeah.
would have.
I
And
wonder. I really wonder if Mr. Sean was maybe getting some messages that he doesn't like to talk about. That's why he said that.
what?
Like when he told you to put the gun up so you don't get you both killed.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I wonder if something was telling him that. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, here's the thing. When that thing growled, it
hmm
it vibrated my body and his too.
hmm
You know, because we talked about it afterwards, and it was crazy because I was just like, I what can do that? Lions in the zoo, you know, maybe mountain lions, panther, something like that. And like
hmm
maybe about 6 months before that, I had been down very close to where the Blair Witch structure was in this area.
hmm
And there's a cave down there where the water is.
Ooh.
And I had a creepy feeling, and the reason why I went down there is because I heard like what it sounded like a woman being tortured in the woods. I'm like, what the freak? You know, so we were
Uh
going down there. My research partner stayed back a little bit, and of course,
huh.
me being I have the crazy gene. So I'm going down there to where the like cave is, and it's a very small cave, hole in
Yeah.
the ground. And I got this creepy feeling. And when I turned
Mm.
to go back, because my friend was like, "No, you need to come up here. I don't have a good feeling about this." And so
Mm.
when I turned around, I saw something in my periphery run up that hill. Well, it's like a mountainside. It's yeah,
Yeah.
kind of treacherous. And I saw it run up, and it was black.
Uh
And
huh.
it could have been a bear because we have seen bear there. So I'm not
Yeah.
really sure what it was, but when I Googled what, you know, a woman being killed in the woods sounding like or whatever, it came
hmm
back as Black Panther. And what I saw was black, and it was moving very quick. But I do know that bears can run, what is it, up to 30 miles an hour? So it very well could have been that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's possible. I mean, was it going uphill?
Yeah, and the thing, yes, it was going uphill very quickly, and it was moving
Mm.
away from me. I'm like, oh my god, it could have been killed in the woods looking for Bigfoot, like my daughter keeps on telling me.
Yeah.
Like I'm
There's
not
worse ways to go.
manifesting that, but yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I better listen to that fear factor and words of wisdom that my friends are saying too. So, you know, hear about that growl that we heard that
hmm
shook your whole body. The only other time that I've heard this was when we Relic Films was making uh, Land Between the Lakes, Cryptic Expedition Land Between the Lakes. It's our second documentary. And we
Yeah.
were in a location with Martin Groves and Barton
Mhm.
Nunley and their
Shout
team,
out.
Kentucky. Yeah, and we had gotten there, and Adam Davies and Greg and the team that doesn't even want to be named, we were getting suited up because when you're going
Mhm.
in with mics on, you got to get your camera. It takes you a while to get set up, about maybe
Yep.
10 minutes sometimes,
Mhm.
especially with a large group. And so,
Yep.
but of course, Martin and Bart, they weren't used to working with, a camera crew. And
Yeah.
so they get out, they go bolting to where, they're going to go, searching. And Adam tells me, Janice, hey, go up there, run and tell them to come back down. We have got to get our mics set up and, our cameras set up. And I said,
Right.
okay, I'll go. So I go up there with no camera, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I didn't even have my gun on me at that time, which is very
Ooh.
rare.
Yeah.
And so we go up there and we get to the very top of this location.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, we're hearing these growls around us. And it's very similar to what I heard at Bankhead when I saw whatever it was,
Yeah.
growl, because it's vibrating your inside. I mean, I've heard people talk about infrasound and everything, and maybe that's what it is. I don't really know. But it was like it was surrounding us. It was so creepy. But the creepy part about this is the film crew with Adam Davies and my Relic Films crew that were still down at the trucks getting geared up, they were having the same thing happen to them.
Right.
And that night was when Greg saw a Bigfoot run in front of the truck. Now, at that time when we were staying in Kentucky, because we were there for I think it was like 5 days filming, maybe a week. And we did have a lot of weird stuff happen. We had eye shine, of course, the orbs, the growls, oh my God, that was so creepy. Feeling like we were being surrounded, especially the first night we went out when they ran up. And that night was the biggest night that you had to fight constantly with the growls of running. You had to face your fear. You're like, I'm not sure what this is, but I'm not going to show it fear. I do know that is one of the things with animals, they can sense your fear. And so you don't want to project that out because they get attacked just for fear. So I'm like, no, I'm a strong woman. I'm not scared.
She-Ra.
Right. I'm a Bigfoot investigator, whatever that means.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. You know what? There's been so many times, me and my researchers, research partners, that we've gone to Falk, Arkansas, stayed at Fort Magazine. Nothing happened, except there was a serial killer on the loose. And I'm like, oh my God, there's a serial killer killing people. Yeah, they were telling us, locals, that abducting women and killing them. I'm like, I'm sleeping with my gun and my eyes open.
Yeah.
Nothing ever happened. So I guess they're not into blonde older ladies. Yep.
Huh. Neat. Yeah, I don't know that I would be okay with that particular circumstance going on, but yeah. Good job, She-Ra. You did it. You did it.
You know what? If you run from everything that scares you, you'll miss some of the most amazing things in life. And so I think a lot of times maybe the Bigfoot, the forest people, they do not present themselves to you because of fear of what you may do. You may hurt yourself. You may hurt them. And yes, so I think...
Well, I'm with you 100% on that detail, just not the serial killer part. It's okay to run from that.
Oh my God,
probably avoid that as best as you can. But the rest of it, sure.
They never caught this person killing these women near Falk, Arkansas. Oh my God, they never caught him.
Oh Lord.
Yep. I'm telling my research partner, you're not leaving my side. When I started all of this is funny because some of the first times we went out or whatever, you know, I'm going, I'm like, I've got my gun, you know, I'm gonna, hey, I'll go get the wood. It doesn't matter. I'm a female. I'm a scout leader. And I'm a outdoors woman. And so I'm like, I'll go get the wood for y'all. And so I go get the wood. And this one time that I went to go get the wood, I was like, oh, I gotta use the bathroom. So I'm using the bathroom. So I'm real low to the ground, squatted down like all of us female do. And I look up and there's nothing but eyes around me. And I'm like, oh my God, what in the world? I mean, I'm like, this isn't Bigfoot. It's, you know, about 3 foot from the ground. What is, and my mind finally caught up. I'm like, oh my God, it's a pack of coyotes. And they were surrounding me like everywhere, just circle around. And there must have been like 12 to 20 of them. And I'm like, okay, midstream, I've got to pull my pants up and I've got to get my gun. And then I'm like, wait, I'm in a state park. I can't do this. I can't shoot, you know, because I'm going to get in trouble. The ranger will hear me. You know,
What the heck you say?
And so I'm like, okay, be smart. Okay, if this is a coyote, they're ambush predators, but if you run from them, they'll run after you. They don't know that I'm this tall. So I'll carefully stand up, pull my big old knife out. You know, that's what I did. And I backed out and I talked to him. I'm like, you guys let me go. I'm not going to stab you. I was like, but if you jump on me, I'm going to stab every one of you I can, you know? And, but once
I'm going to wipe myself with your hide.
And once I stood up, you know, I was okay. And backed out of there and went back to the campground. I told the fellow researchers, I went, you know, one thing I'm never going to do, go out into the woods by myself again. I mean, if it's not like Bigfoot, Dogman trying to get you, it's going to be like daggum coyotes and wolves, you know. Oh, and bear. We've had bear come into our campout before on many expeditions.
Right.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah, see, that's the thing, though. Like, you know, people are always kind of conflicted on the whole bring the gun thing, not bring the gun thing. Me personally, I always say bring the gun. The reason why, granted, if you actually have to use it for something that's beyond the normal, is it going to do anything? Probably not. It doesn't matter if it's 9mm, 10mm, 45, whatever. Most likely it's not going to matter much. But bears are a thing. Panthers are a thing. Coyotes are obvious a thing and pretty creepy.
Yes.
You know, I always refer to it as your emotional support pistol. Always have your emotional support pistol.
And your emotional support bear spray. Like when I go out now, I have so much on me. I've got audio. I've got like my, not just bear spray. I'm talking bear spray.
Okay.
9mm. I mean, I've got it all going on. And so I mean, you got to protect yourself, especially, you know, being a female out in the woods. By no means am I saying I'm weaker, because, you know, I'm not. I'm going to be as, you know, careful as a guy would be. But people like the serial killer could see an opportunity, and I'm not going to give them an opportunity. I know that on campouts at our habituation site, I would announce to like the woods, okay, I have a gun, but it's not for you, Bigfoot, because I do not want to hurt you. I do not want to exploit you. You know, it's for other humans. And so I got to where I had said that. And at one camp out, this was really weird on one of our earlier expeditions. I went out and I wasn't supposed to bring a gun, but it was such a habit for me that, of course, I brought my gun. You know, it was in my holster or whatever. And so we're out there, and I'm like, oh shit, I got my gun. And I'm like, I'm not going to tell anybody. You know, we get back to the campground. I told Greg, I was like, dang, man, I had my gun, you know? And we get back home from that experience, and a guy that told us about that experience, that was his habituation site. We were visiting it, you know what I mean? He told us, he goes, hey, I had some communication from a Bigfoot. I told you guys not to bring a gun in, and they said that you brought a gun in. And I'm like, how does this guy know this? What the, you know, that was weird because that guy didn't know me. I mean, he knew Greg, but he didn't know me. And then I'm like, okay, you know, Greg's like telling him it was an accident. She's a girl, you know, she didn't know.
Yeah, leave her alone, dude.
Yeah, like,
come on, man. It's not
She's
kosher.
going out with a whole bunch of guys in the woods.
Yeah.
Be protected. Yeah. But,
you know what? I've actually got a theory on that. That's interesting that you say that because I for one, I think all this stuff is connected anyways, right?
Yeah.
And you know what's very interesting about all of this paranormal stuff, historically speaking, is that no matter the culture, it seems like there's always some kind of sensitivity or an aversion to iron. So it makes me wonder if that's how it knew that you had something there. What kind of 9mm is it by chance?
Well, now I have at that time it was a Sky because that's all I could afford at the time.
Yeah. Oh, no, Skies are fine.
Millimeter, but I did have like a hollow point in it, you know, inserted around. But now I carry a Glock because the Glock is more accurate. I've had the Sky, unfortunately, fail me on the range. And I'm like, dude, if that fails me on the range, I don't want it to fail me in the woods when the serial killer is coming up. I'm like, no, I'm taking you down, you know.
Well, I will say that for sure, to my knowledge, because the Sky is modeled after the Kel-Tec P11. The guy that designed that pistol made that company when he left Kel-Tec. And I am 99.9% sure that is a steel slide. So, yep.
I will say that, like, going out in the woods and some of the animals that you can encounter other than Bigfoot and Dogman, like, say, a bear, you would probably need a 45 to take it down properly. When we were in Land Between the Lakes, the second night when we went back to try to duplicate what we had the night before, when we had all the growls and we were seeing eye shine and all kinds of weirdness, of course, we didn't have the type of activity that night. And I don't know. I just totally lost my train of thought, too. What was I saying?
Activity? That night?
Oh, my God. My mind just went...
I was along for the ride. I'm just...
I know,
Where are you taking me, Janice?
Nowhere, apparently. Nowhere. You know,
that's all right.
Okay, I'll tell you about this other story. This time, this was in North Georgia too. I'm not going to tell where this mountain was, but me and some fellow researchers, Angela and Sean, being in the group, and Greg was with us that night too. We were like, we really want to see this area because it has a history of a lot of paranormal activity, but also like sightings, Bigfoot sightings, and we're like, we got to go see this area, you know. Well, we go up to the mountain, the very top, and you know, we get out or whatever, and I mean, like, as soon as we get out, all hell breaks loose. I mean, we're getting things thrown at us, twigs, rocks, acorns, you name it, and we're hearing movement all around us, to where our whole group get together in a protective formation, kind of like me and my other researcher did back to back. You know, we were doing that because, you know, we didn't want them to come and like get us from behind, you know. And at the time, you know, Sean, he's a former military and a Marine, and he also was in law enforcement. And so he had like an AR, and I had my 9mm, and of course Angela had hers, and so we all have our guns drawn. That's how scared we were. And to make this all like the creepiest thing you've ever heard, like, we heard a witch's cackle, like, you know, that you know, that kind of like, oh, that did us in. That was it. We were like, okay, back in
Mm.
we're gone, see ya. And
Yeah.
that was so weird. Like we heard the movements around us, you know.
Mhm.
It was such a that was probably one of the scariest nights I've ever been out on, you know, where I
Right.
really did think that, oh yeah, here I am. I'm going to die in the woods looking for
Mhm.
Bigfoot, like my daughter said.
Right.
Yep.
Wow. I can't imagine that. Whew. Yeah, that throws a whole nother layer on top of things. Like, yikes. But yeah, I mean, wow. There's just so many there. I can tell that you've got a whole list of stuff that you could just tell us tonight, couldn't you?
You know what? Here's the thing. Like if you want to know and you go out, you're going to see something eventually.
Oh yeah.
And so that's what kind of like I was thinking of, you know, like I said, 90% of the time you go out, you don't see anything, you don't have any experiences. And you know, there are people, you know, out there like a possum moving in the woods at night. They're like, oh my God, it's Bigfoot. No, it's the little possum, you know. That's
Right.
why it's real important to get, you know, infrared, FLIR, you know, something that you can see in the woods and identify what's going on. I know that at one investigation, and even if you have a FLIR, you might be tricked into the mind thinking that something is Bigfoot. And the reason why
Yeah.
I'm saying this is, you know, at one time, not every time, but at one time we had a bear that we swear to God it was Bigfoot. On we're like, we got the holy grail right here.
Yay!
If it's true, you know. And all it was a mama bear like sniffing the air and it made it look like it was a cone head. But I mean, she had perfect like Bigfoot body up in that FLIR. And
Yeah.
that's his bear. Mm-hmm.
Mm. Well, awesome. Well, okay. Now I know that there is definitely one more story that I want to hear, but as juicy and good as that one is, I think we should probably move over and do that in the overtime episode. I really
Okay.
want to hear about the whole beanie episode that happened.
Right.
The one that got ripped off of your head.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think do you mind telling that over there on an overtime
yeah.
part?
Yeah, let's go. That
Awesome.
was that one was scary too.
Yes, you told me that one, but once before when we were in towns, and I was just shocked by
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah,
let's do
because
that.
you know, my friend Greg, he actually saw it fly off my head.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right,
Mm-hmm.
right. So let's do that over there. Well, all right, Janice. So is there anything before we get out of here that you want to promote?
Yes, I do want to promote Relic Films' next new documentary that's coming out late 2025 and the first part of 2026, and it's going to be called The Vanishing. And
Yes.
we were working on that at Townsend, Tennessee,
Yay.
a couple of weekends ago when we had the water go out at our location. We had to wait for days for them to come and fix the water pump.
Mm-hmm.
That was fun.
For sure.
It was super fun.
Yes, very much so.
Sprinkles.
R.I.P. R.I.P. Anyways, well, awesome. Well, with that being said, hang out. I'm gonna say goodbye to everybody, and then we'll jump in and record the overtime episode. Okay?
All right, buddy.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it, and I'll talk to you in just a second. All right?
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right. Well, guys, that's the show for tonight. You know, Miss Janice is an awesome person, and she has so many stories. We barely scratched the surface. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope we learned a little bit, caught, you know, some of the breadcrumbs in the trail so that we can draw the lines to the crazy things and be like solving the mystery and make our hairs crazy while we're trying to figure it out. Like, I hope we were able to do that a little bit for everybody. And yeah, it was great seeing everyone. I love hanging out. I have so many cool people here. That's awesome. Makes my day. So on that note, guys, thank you. And yeah, we're gonna go over there and do the overtime episode. So if you guys are a member of the Patreon, you'll get to check it out. It'll probably be up tomorrow, the next day. $5 a month. Price of a frou-frou coffee. You get to help old Fisher out to buy equipment so that I can go out and have adventures and stuff like that and put it out here for you guys to see. But yeah. Anyways, guys, I love y'all. Thank you for hanging out. And let me find my button. Where's it at? Ah, there it is. So yeah, get a hold of me if you got, now before we do that, yeah, if you guys have any stories and you would like to come on and tell them, get a hold of me. My email is in the description. I would be happy to have you on. Or if you don't want to tell the story but you want someone to tell it for you, I'm happy to do that as well. So either way, get a hold of me. So tookie tookie. Peace.
How it's supposed to feel.